In this video, I'm going to talk to you about why I find great teams protect standards. I don't think that they're protecting an image. I don't think they're protecting a hierarchy. And I hope they're not protecting an ego. What I'd like to think they're doing, the teams I've successfully built, they protect alignment. Standards, they're not rules that are enforced. They're expressions of the identity of that team. People who hold themselves accountable to the standard they've created based on the culture that they want. The outcome is actually what creates that image people see. It's not an image they have that creates the outcome. A question I've often asked myself in situations with teams, and I've asked teams to ask themselves, am I adding to this or am I taking away from it in their decisions, in their thoughts? Great teams don't protect comfort, they protect alignment. You'll have been in teams before where everyone is being nice to everybody, not saying things in meetings that probably need to be said. I don't mean in a negative way, by the way, but if you see something screaming that's wrong, project's not proceeding. Why? Because we're focusing on a certain element and you're looking to yourself, why are we even talking about this? I've been in those rooms, but we don't want to raise, if we see a problem, the last thing we want to do is raise it, because then we have to address it. Think for a moment of where you felt the strongest alignment, whether it was a sports team maybe, or a work team, and ask yourself, what is it that made it feel that way? Most teams, they drift away from the standard that made them good. Not suddenly, by the way, it's not literally a 90-degree turn. It's actually something that's snuck in there. You'll find over time, it's easier not to create friction, for example. I'm not talking about authority, by the way. I'm not talking about management systems. I'm not talking about corporate culture frameworks or all that stuff. I'm talking about identity, alignment, and removing noise. You've heard me mention noise before. If we use the analogy of shooting, that rifle wants to shoot straight wherever it's pointing. Say we put it in a vise on a bench, point it at the bullseye and pull the trigger. It wants to go there naturally. Now, you put that onto a person, and noise becomes muscle movement, body movement, twitching, muscle tension. Now you add the psychological stuff in, thinking about the last score. Was it a good one? Was it a bad one? Is everybody looking at me? What would this next shot mean? All these different things that come into shooting. And I like the shooting analogy because I actually am viewing the world through things I'm learning in shooting. Might sound weird, but stick with me on it. You're carrying out a project. If everyone's not aligned, what happens? You know, you've been there. I've been there. If everyone is not aligned, then there's a problem. If there's arguments because of people's roles, people's titles, power trips, politics, a whole lot. Have you seen projects succeed or fail? Because I know what I've seen. So what I'd say is the teams that have been the best, they've not been the loudest. They're not the high fivers, God help us, around the office. I've seen that in, for me, cringing. But they've been aligned in one thing. They saw the goal. It aligned with them as an identity, the culture that they exhibited within the projects, within the team, and it was delivered. And a team was delivering the project, not an individual. There was nobody out to prove that they were better than the other people, for example. People picked up things that fell. People crossed into other departments. They could see there was a bit of help needed. I've seen that, and I've seen it not often enough at all. And what happened there was the outcome meant more than the inputs, for example, or for them as a position or a person, or where they're seen in a certain light. That's where success comes from, I think. Not about I'm in my box, I've done my bit, hand it over to somebody else, but actually a real belief that they want to deliver, and it's based on the outcome, not on roles, not on identities, not on seniority, God help us. And I'd say Ask yourself, why would you think that all matters? Well, when the team moves away from what the mission is about, now you have self-serving, now you have protection, now you have noise, you no longer have alignment, and rather than protecting the identity of the team, you're protecting the identity of the individual. Three things I would have seen before that actually come into a room in meetings that I don't like to come in and won't let them into mine. Status, politics, and image. People have a status. Oh, I mentioned in a previous video, I'm senior, I'm junior. If someone leads with if they're, hi, I'm Kevin Doyle, I'm a senior, do you know, I stand as Kevin Doyle. I don't stand as senior this, senior that, junior this, junior that. I bring solutions. If that works for you, then put me on the team. Politics, not interested in gaining, not interested in befriending, being seen more successful at a political level by delivering something. God help us, yeah. An image. I have this mad notion about myself. I drive X type of car, wear X type of suits. I've got this type of watch. Not interested. And that in itself for me has, if I saw those three elements within a team, either I'd change the team or I'd change the team I'm working with. That's the reality. The mission has no room. The goal has no room in that room if individuals start carrying status, politics, and image as success factors, nearly. I think that the outcome is what creates the image. If you're working within a team that has successful outcomes, that's the image people they see. And if you've done it the right way with the right culture, you'll find people want to be attached with that. On the same side, you'll also find if you create the right culture that's creating that image based on the outcome, people will not want to be in that because it doesn't serve them. Now, there's an interesting one. Standards are the identity. We hold each other to a level. We don't bring the B game. Something I've struggled with before is someone says, you know, you probably have to say that when you be pitching for business or you be explaining an idea. So what's there is no other. I gave you you asked me a question, I gave you the answer. I definitely didn't try to give you the second best answer because I only have one answer and it's the one that I believe in passionately. Alignment is something that I really, really like. Analogy with the shooting, when everything is aligned, when your mind is aligned with your body, your breathing, the rifle, that shot release is clean. Introduce noise, now you're gone from a 10.5, 10.6 out to a 9 if you're lucky. In projects, if everyone's not aligned, suddenly the noise comes around the do you know who I am? How dare you speak to me like that? Do you not realize I'm senior this, senior that? Going and pulling power plays, something I've always loved is seeing someone CCing in a manager to try and use leverage or embarrass, I don't know which. Where people start to protect, self-protection. That's not my problem, that's not my fault, I didn't do that, must be somebody else. That's where it falls apart. Again, the rifle, it shoots naturally where it's pointing. You attach a person to it, and now it's where the person is pointing. And the more movement, the more variance. Nothing can be repeated. Anything that happens in that rifle, I'm responsible for, and I'm also responsible for removing it. If you look in the business, natural alignment, I'd say, is aligned with a culture that's been created and is believed in. Added noise, ego, politics, and the status game pulls companies apart, pulls teams apart. Trying to correct behaviors, enforcing what should have already been there or should be lived. You've often seen it, by the way. You look at the values and goals on a website, and then you meet the people, and you wouldn't be able to put the two of them together. It looks great on a website. If it's not something that's natural, then it's not something that's going to be lived. No problem with that, just a realization. The outcomes, just like in shooting, the more you force it, the worse it becomes. Yeah. That one question, do you know who I am? You know, that I've heard that said in meetings and things like that. And honestly, you've lost me if that's the introduction. I've experienced managers who can't admit. Example would be software development, and you've got a tech manager who they're wrong, they know they're wrong, they force the I'm right, get off the call, and then you get a call to go, can you give them a call back and tell them they were right, because they can't be seen to be wrong. If you can't admit you're wrong, you're in the wrong room as well. I've mentioned this before. The areas I create within teams, there's a space for honesty in there where no one gets kicked to death for putting their hand up and going, I'm wrong. Why? Because the sooner we say it, the sooner we can do something about it. Also, if you say you're wrong, I won't kick you in the teeth. I won't beat you down. And I'll help you to actually put it right, hopefully. I look at shooting a little bit like a cake, if you want. Stews, analogies here again, stews and cakes. Stews, a bit of this, a bit of that, you'll be fine. Add a little bit of that, there's more. Garlic, how much? Enough. Measurement is enough. That's enough. Now, you go to cake, making a cake. Has to be 50 grams of this, 20 grams of that, 100 grams of this, 100 grams of that. If you get any of the elements in there wrong, the cake doesn't taste nice. So just like shooting, there are certain things within the shooting process, and you need to make sure there's just enough of each one of them for the perfect shot. Add too much, you overbake the cake, you overcook the shot. Too little, the same, you under deliver. I would say in businesses and in teams, you need the same amount of ingredients. You need the same type of measurements. It's not just enough to stumble your way through. You need to have a defined level. For example, there should be, I don't know, we'll need 2 UXers or CXers or developers or back-end specialists. There's so many you need for each project if I was doing it that way. Infrastructure, you need so many routers, so many switches. You need, your LANs, your WAN configuration. You need so much of each one of those. Overdo it, too much money spent. Underdo it, too much money spent in the long term. So you get it right. So there's a whole lot of analogies here we can draw. I have 4 questions I ask, and I go, what is the mission we're trying to achieve? What are you actually protecting? Are we adding noise? Am I contributing or am I taking? So when I approach the shooting, I know what my immediate one is, and that's Los Angeles 28. What am I actually protecting? The process that I've created really is. Am I adding noise? No, the process is a very, it's like running water. It really has nothing to it. It just does it. And it does it continuously. So it's the process I'm protecting, the integrity of the process. And the decisions I make, am I just trying to be noisy, or am I actually trying to be noisy, or am I trying to perfect something? So am I adding, or am I just, do I want someone to hear me for the sake of going, oh, he's interesting in what he says or does? So it has to be giving, not taking. I believe that great cultures are self-enforcing. By that I mean it's not something that's on a website. It's something you walk in and it's already there. I've explained before the way I see things. I see patterns. It's a gift and a curse all in one, because after a very short space of time I can see the gaps, or I can see the congruence. Congruence is a word that I like because it's a feeling internally. People who genuinely align naturally protect the standards. They won't allow anything come in there that's going to affect it. That's not, I don't mean, by the way, bullying in any way, shape or form, but it becomes very obvious that people step up to the standard. The standard would be in a discussion, for example, 5 people talking about a point. That point is totally based on improving the outcome. It's not about status or ego or who you are or what you are. It's all about that. And people within the group will only ever talk about improvements to the process for the benefit of the outcome. Anyone who comes into that environment, it'll be screaming at them, this is how you conduct yourself. Equally, anyone who brings in ego, brings in the do you know who I am, brings in the in my last company stuff, we've all heard that, they'll be stopped. And misalignment cannot be allowed to rewrite the standards. So we don't let it exist. We create what we want, and others will opt out because they'll realize this is not the type of environment I enjoy. And I would say too, leadership is a behavior, it's not an authority. If you have to tell me you're the leader, you've seen this too, by the way. I've seen it. You go into a room, you listen, and naturally you can spot a leader. They don't have the badge with, hey, I'm Fred and I am the leader. It'll be something different. It's something that makes sense. It's something that's not forced. It's nearly a presence related to behavior. They create trust without forcing it. They don't have to raise the voice. They never have to introduce the "do you know who I am" statements. I'd say that the strongest teams I've worked with, they're not loud, they don't make noise, they deliver. They're reliant, they're very quiet, very clear, and I would say very honest, honest to themselves and honest to the culture and honest to the system. And they're focused on what they can do to bring 100% to the area of their expertise, for example, for the role they fill. I think I've come across enough people at this stage who want to look elite. So they'll have the latest flashy gear, the latest flashy cars, the latest flashy clubs, all that good stuff. Hardly any of them want to take the time quietly off in a corner to be elite, because for them, elite doesn't exist in a corner, it exists out in public. It's not about the quiet work, the work that no one except yourself rewards you for. That's the reality. They're trying to fulfill something else. And that difference, I think it changes everything. Am I adding or am I taking from it? That's the question. I want to thank you for dropping by. I'm documenting my road, if you want, my road trip, my journey towards the destination as a Paralympic rifle shooter. And yeah, drop by again sometime. Thank you.